This is Scott Spears, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Scott Spears Now. And this is the primary election result program. As many of you know, we had a primary here in Ohio. We're taping this on Wednesday, so it was last night. And boy, was it interesting, from the Senate race to local races. Very fascinating. It's a presidential year. You would expect higher voter turnout, but the Ohio primary now comes later than it used to. And now we know who the presidential candidates are, being Trump and Biden. So turnout was not great, but it wasn't a very interesting primary. Nobody to discuss this better with, plus some interesting comments that have been made as of late, and interesting things people are getting into as this election year rolls on. Some of them even happening in Ohio. Nobody better to discuss this with than 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow. Mary Ellen, interesting night.
Yes, it was. I was watching television trying to follow what was happening, but it wasn't very easy to figure it out last night.
No, and I was also very interesting to me that the television did not cover it as heavy as they normally do in a presidential year.
No, they usually have a lot of people at MSNBC, and they only had one person last night.
Do you know why Ohio got moved away from Super Tuesday?
I don't know. I have no idea. I wondered about that.
Yeah. Somebody was saying to me recently that they do not consider Ohio a swing state anymore because we have so many Republican politicians, and we've voted Republican for quite a while now.
I thought they thought we were purple after the last election because we voted in the Roe and Wade thing, and the other one, the
marijuana.
The marijuana, yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because is this going to be the issue overall? The Roe versus Wade, women's rights, is this what Democrats have to campaign on to get people to the ballot box?
Well, I thought it was, but everybody else is saying it's the economy. They think the economy's a problem. I don't see why the economy's a problem. Do you?
No, I'm not sure why. I don't know really if you can win on you used to be able to win on the economy, but I'm not sure that you could do that now, because politics is very nasty now.
Oh, it is. But do you remember the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid"?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
That was during Gore and Clinton's years. Yeah.
And I think at that time, it worked very well, because the economy was in bad shape. But I'm not sure. I mean, we do have inflation. People concede that. But I don't know that the economy's in bad shape.
Well, they keep talking about the groceries.
The groceries,
yes.
Yeah.
And you people would know about the groceries.
We certainly would. Meat has gone up. I mean, there are certain things that went up and certain things that haven't.
Yeah.
There's been significant increases in meat. I think that's probably where a lot of that's coming from.
Is it?
Yeah, because really the other stuff, I really haven't seen a huge increase.
I haven't either.
So I think it's the meat, and I'm not sure why the meat is up so much.
Yeah.
Gas prices don't seem to be enormous.
No. No.
So I'm not really sure. Now, I do think housing has went up. I know that rents are up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
Yes.
But I don't know what the driver is there. Because we came off this pandemic, and that was kind of strange. It shook everything up in a way that I don't think anybody would have ever thought. And
I'm not so sure we've gotten off of it.
No.
Yeah.
No, what's this really has nothing to do with the election, but have you noticed this winter, first winter without the pandemic kind of hanging over us in 4 years, have you noticed that people have been really sick? When they get sick this winter.
Yes, they do.
I don't remember colds used to be that bad.
No, people seem to be sick for quite a little while.
They're very contagious.
Yeah.
I don't know if the separation hurt our immune systems. I don't know.
They've messed us up.
They've messed us up a while. I wonder if this happened after the flu pandemic in the teens.
Yeah.
This election, very interesting. Let's start on the Senate level because this is where it's going to get really ugly, I believe, in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got Sherrod Brown, longtime senator on one side. He did not face a challenge in the primary, so he's up now. And his challenger will be Bernie Moreno. Now, people thought this was going to be a close race. It was a Republican primary three-way. Bernie Moreno was backed by former President Trump. Dolan was backed by Governor DeWine. And Secretary of State LaRose was not backed by anybody, but had good name recognition, being the Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. And turns out Moreno took more than half of this race, 50.5% of the vote. Dolan 32.9% and LaRose 16.6%. What do you make of those results, Mary Ellen?
Well, I wondered if those, the commercials, those bad commercials they had on him, if all that was true. I'd like to know if it was true or not.
On Bernie Moreno?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong on this, he doesn't have a political background.
No.
Businessman.
No, he's a car dealer.
Car dealer.
Yeah.
And now he's going to run for Senate. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I would imagine you support Sherrod Brown in this race.
Yes.
But is he, for the first time in many years, in real trouble here?
Well, he's had some close... He got beat, back when he was Secretary of State. He went to Japan and spent a little time over there and some situation, I forget what it was, and I think that sort of affected the vote. But he's been a senator, I guess, 18 years, 19 years, and he's done a good job, and he's had good commercials, but it's going to get so nasty,
I think two things that most people would say are working against him this particular year. Number one, obviously Moreno has the Trump vote. And I don't know that Sherrod Brown has faced anybody who was so backed by Trump in the past. Mm-hmm. And also, it's a presidential year, which means if Ohio goes for Trump again, we have seen this down-ticket vote be pretty severe for the candidates. And that would also affect, obviously, Sherrod Brown if Ohio goes for Trump again.
Did you notice, though, the vote for the president and the vote for Trump for Ohio?
I did.
The president got a good vote, and I thought that told us something.
You know what's very interesting to me is that even though it's over for the primaries, that Nikki Haley got over 10% of the vote mm-hmm. in Ohio and in Marion County. Mm-hmm. She got over 10%.
Oh, did she?
She did.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Well, I think people are getting a little tired of Trump.
That could say that.
Yeah.
I in the Moreno case, do you think he would have had a chance here had not been for Trump?
Well, it looked to me as much as he won by that he would have,
It looks that way.
Yeah.
They kept saying these polls were close, and even at one point, just last week, I heard that Dolan was leading.
I did too. I heard that too.
I don't know how those polls were so off.
Well, there we go again.
There we go again
polls
with those
are
polls.
Wrong.
And LaRose, it's very strange that a Secretary of State, they can lose, but to lose by that much.
Yeah.
16%.
Yeah, he was running against two people that we hadn't tested that much in office. I mean, Moreno hadn't been in office, right?
No.
And Dolan, had he been a representative or what had he? Yeah.
I think nothing substantial.
No.
And
a state representative?
State representative,
yeah,
I
okay.
think.
Yeah.
And you look, and here's your current sitting Secretary of State who can only muster 16% of the vote.
Yeah. And he didn't get endorsed by anybody either.
No, and that was peculiar in a way because I think common wisdom would have said that DeWine might have endorsed LaRose, but it was never...
Yeah, that was part of his people, yeah. It's interesting to see what happens, but I've been told that endorsements don't mean much, but I think they do with Trump.
I would, yes.
Otherwise, I don't think they mean much.
Well, the only thing I can think of, and I've been the last few mornings on the air, what's been fascinating to me, and this is in a negative way, that apparently if DeWine endorses you now, that's a negative. That's what I'm told.
It could be.
I don't know what happened
I don't know
to
either,
DeWine.
but yeah, it could be.
I don't know if it was the pandemic. I mean, I
Yeah.
know he fell out of favor with his party
Yeah.
during the pandemic.
Well, he's had a lot of trouble. I mean, he's still there, though. You know, he's still in office.
Holding on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But he can't run again. He'll be, I think, 79.
Yeah, he can run for something else.
He can run for something else. Can't run for governor again.
No, but he could run for state treasurer
He could.
or state auditor.
He likes to be in those jobs. He does.
Yeah.
Would you be shocked if he ran for something else?
No, I wouldn't.
He'll be
because
79.
He likes to run for office. He's so mean in his commercials.
He does.
He gets so mean. And yeah, I can remember his commercials against John Glenn.
Ooh.
They were terrible.
Yeah, those were.
And John Glenn was really upset about that, about picking on his military experience. That really made him mad.
Well, and DeWine has been known to go after people in a pretty harsh way during an election. Mm-hmm. The last one with Cordray.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah.
Well, that was one of those things as well, where the polls were saying that Cordray looked as if he was going to win, and that didn't happen.
Nope, it didn't.
I don't know about the polls anymore.
I don't either. I don't have much trust in them.
No, they're very strange on
Yeah.
the whole. But this race, do you think, what does Sherrod Brown have to do to get reelected? Because I think just the way the makeup of the voter is in Ohio right now in this presidential year, that he's going to have to do more work than Moreno will.
Well, I think keep on doing what he's doing. He's pointing out what he's done, and it's for big groups of people, the unions and the military. There's different things that he's done for them. That's the best thing he could do.
Is it a problem? Because now he knows who he's going to face. He didn't know of the three before.
No.
Now he knows. Mm-hmm. Is it a problem that Moreno really has no political background? I mean, that works against him because you could say he has no experience, but he also has no voting record or anything to hit.
No, you've got nothing to compare. And the fact that he's a Trump supporter makes it even worse. And yeah.
Do you feel, because we're really in the grand scheme of things are not that far out, 7 months from election time.
Well, it's going to feel like
it's
long
going to feel like
time.
we've still got. We'll have the conventions again this year, possibly the debates. Who knows? They're talking about them.
I hope they don't debate. It would
Really?
It would be a nothing.
It was last time.
Yeah, all he did was walk around behind Hillary.
Yeah.
And try to look nasty.
Well, the Biden debates in 2020, they just talked over each other.
Yeah.
And it really was.
It was nothing.
I don't think anybody learned anything.
No.
So I don't know if they will or not. There's talk of it. Who knows?
If they do it, I'll watch.
Yeah, they're always entertaining.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
I like debates, but I don't think. I'll just say this: I don't think it's going to happen.
No, and I don't think it. Well, I think what it will depend on who is behind when we get to October.
Oh yeah.
Because whoever's behind would want to debate.
Right.
And whoever's ahead usually does not want to debate. And if it's close, sometimes they both want to debate because it's close.
He may still be looking for money.
Well,
he's in bad shape.
I'll tell you. Let's veer to that story for a second because that's an interesting story.
It is.
Former President Donald Trump, self-proclaimed billionaire. I guess we have to say that now because I'm not sure that maybe with property he is, but can't come up with $464 million in bonds in the New York fraud case. And I was reading right before we taped this episode on Wednesday that they're thinking of taking Trump Tower, putting a lien on Trump Tower in New York right now.
Well, I heard him discussing this a lot, and it was even mentioned that his properties may be propping up each other or whatever, you know?
You know what's odd about this whole thing? He's been doing all this campaigning, and people have said raising money for his legal defense. So why is there not 400 and none of these billionaires who follow him have 464 million?
Well, they know that he won't pay them back. See,
Well,
that's the problem.
That's what they say.
Yeah, he doesn't pay back his bills. I think he would have gotten the money if he had a better record.
How have we come to this point where
I don't know.
it's a strange and I'm not. I think they start seizing assets if he cannot come up with it.
Yes, and they're also worried that he might get something from Russia or another country. Somebody might give him some money just to get him elected.
You know what I thought was odd? His son-in-law, Kushner.
He's afraid he won't get paid
Well,
back.
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Kushner got, was it $2 billion from Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, right.
And he won't give Trump the money.
Well,
That's his son-in-law.
not yet. And what about his daughter? I think she's got some money, and they know him. Yeah.
They do know him. That is shocking to me. I mean, you know, family's family,
Yeah.
whether you like the guy or not.
Well, but his family has just that daughter-in-law is the only one that's been kind of standing with him, you know. A daughter-in-law. I mean, where's everybody else?
Well, that's it. You think the first time he ran, it was all about billionaire, I'm a businessman, I will run the country like a business. Second time, it was kind of still around. Do you think this hurts his credibility that he can't come up with 464 million?
Yes, but I think, you know, I thought the guy was a businessman way back. And I think it was his TV show that made me think that.
The Apprentice.
Yeah, The Apprentice. And because I watched it, I thought it was a pretty good show. And I think a lot of people thought he was a good businessman, but it shows that he's not.
You know, I'm interested to see when his whole political career is over, whenever that may be, I'm interested to see how long he lives and what he does, because the Donald Trump prior, and it's hard to remember now because of everything that's happened in his political career, but prior to his political career, he was a somewhat likable person. People liked his television show. Mm-hmm. People liked his books. His books sold well. Mm-hmm. He was in movies, little cameo spots. He was in Home Alone, very popular movies. And he was in commercials. He was on Saturday Night Live. I mean, talk shows. Mm-hmm. People thought of him as kind of a funny, they'd make fun of his hair. He'd make fun of his hair.
Yeah, and he was interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
But he isn't anymore.
What happened?
Well, he's become desperate. When you become desperate, you start saying things that are crazy. He's saying crazy things now.
Well, what I was thinking about, because I think the only two people we can compare this to is Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Because we, as a country, both kind of knew them. We knew both of them, kind of, before they became president.
Yeah.
Because Reagan had been in the movies, and Trump had been on television and done his thing. So we kind of had an idea, and both of them changed a little bit when they became president. So I was going to ask you, you would have insight into this, does politics change you?
Well, not your beliefs. Unless there's something severe happens. But you keep your same beliefs, I believe. I did, yeah. It didn't change me.
Does it make you a tougher person?
Yeah, oh, good grief, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got tough.
Yeah. Well, that's, you know, I wonder sometimes when I see, you know, Trump out there, or Biden at this point, and they have to take these awful things being said about him constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, you would hate that if you were that person, I would think.
Yeah, I'd go around and walk around the outside of the house after watching one of the commercials against me. I'd think, that's not true, and I don't care.
Well, it's so strange that in politics is one of those rare things where you can say something not true about somebody.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. They should be on top of that. And what's that group? They wouldn't do it fast enough. the election would be over and they'd come out with what that person said wasn't true, and it should be said right away. But the person that they're running against should stop it right away. That's what I always tried to do. When they said something that was wrong, I corrected it right away. And you have to do that. That's what happened in the last governor's race. She didn't correct stuff. Maybe she couldn't. I don't know. But she needed to correct if anything was incorrect that was said about her.
You know, it's very interesting because I saw something, and you see it all the time, but it just struck in my mind during the campaigns recently, was, you know, they run these announcements, and at the bottom of some of them, it'll say paid for by a super PAC or blah.
Yeah.
But some of them it'll say paid for by the candidate. Mm-hmm. Now, when I'm sure you put out a few of those in what was important to you? I mean, how does that process work? Because I think most people don't know. Do they come to you and say, we have this on your opponent, or do you like this ad? Will you put your name on it? How does that all happen?
Well, you have your people that work for you, and they will come up with an idea, and they'll show it to you and ask you if you like it or not. And if I didn't like it, I didn't want it shown, and I'd tell them what I wanted, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
What was important to you in a good political ad that you were willing to say, this message was paid for by Mary Ellen Withrow?
It had to be true.
Had to be true.
Yeah. It wasn't something I made up. And boy, I had a lot of stuff made up about me. It was terrible. Yeah.
You say you walked around the house, but how do you deal with that when you turn it on, television, newspapers, whatever it was, and it's something you absolutely know is false, but you know some people are going to believe it no matter what?
Yeah. And for instance, the Cleveland Plain Dealer had something in there about me every day for it was over a week, and Norman said, "Oh, don't worry about it." I said, "Every time that's in the paper, it gets worse." I said, because it's more people believing it. I said, and you know, the first time it's not too bad, and then the second time there's more people, and it just keeps going until it's a problem. And I had this guy in my office for 6 months that was put there to observe the investments and everything in order to try to get something on me. We had to put up with that.
Who was he put there by?
By the, well, we've got different opinions on that, but he went back to I think he went back to an electric company, but it was, I don't know exactly, and I really don't want to say. Yeah.
Was this? You knew who he was, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, is anybody just allowed to? How did he get access? I guess is what I would say.
You can't do anything about it.
Really?
No, we had to put up with him. He was back in the investment department every day, and yeah, he could look at the records and everything. Mm-hmm.
Well, that must have been very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. Even when nothing's going on, to have somebody looking all the time, that's very unnerving.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, what do you think that is about some people who just they are obsessed almost in a way with certain people, their success. They just want to bring them down.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a weird society thing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I never, it was the Columbus Dispatch. I mean, you know, against John Glenn and I. Can you imagine? They never endorsed either one of us. They wouldn't even interview him. They interviewed me, and I took my most valuable state public official statue, set it on the table for my interview. Of course, that was the only newspaper that didn't endorse me.
The Dispatch.
All over Ohio, everybody else endorsed me. Yeah.
Plain Dealer and all those.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The Plain Dealer. They were very cooperative. Yeah.
Now, when you went in for that interview with the Dispatch, what's that like? What are they asking to get the endorsement?
Oh, they're never going to give it to you.
You know, going in.
See, I took the money out. John Wolfe was on the board of a certain bank, and the the state had had their money in that bank since 1923, when I took over in 1982. And I took the money out of his bank right away. And that's why I didn't get endorsed. I don't know what John Glenn did.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So he'd had the money in the bank for 79 years, and you...
I took it out and moved it to Huntington. And
He didn't like that.
oh, no, he didn't.
He didn't like that.
No, and I went to interview him. The person who was trying to help me in the race wanted me to ask him for money, and I thought, I'm not asking that guy for money, and I didn't. And the person that was trying to get me to do it was really upset. I remember that.
Well, it's, for people who don't remember, the Columbus Dispatch up until recently was a very Republican paper. The Wolf family was very involved in Republican politics. I'm not saying they never endorsed a Democrat, but it certainly was rare if they did.
Oh, they didn't. We tried to. There was a guy that worked for him that we wanted to hire, but he was moving up in the realm and didn't want to lose his job. So yeah, it was interesting time, I'll tell you.
So what do you think the end result is here, that Trump can't come up with this $464 million? It is a bond case. They're ready in New York to seize property. Do you think somebody's going to bail him out knowing he's in this?
Oh, if he gets some money, I want to know where it comes from. I'm telling you, I don't want them to say they don't know where it came from.
Overseas, I think, is what...
That's what we're worried about, yeah.
Now, if he takes money from Saudi Arabia or a country like that...
Or Russia.
Now,
That's the worst thing there.
But, do people care anymore? Would that hurt him with voters?
Well, I would hope so.
You would think.
I mean, gosh, Putin wants to take over the world, and they're going to take over the United States if we don't get it stopped.
But can you, as a president, be indebted to a country that is not an ally of ours?
Well, there ought to be a law somewhere about that, but I don't know.
We found out we have some funny laws in this country.
Right.
You can have a president in jail.
Yeah.
And it can...
They didn't think that would ever happen.
I guess not.
No,
I guess not.
It could.
It could. Well, I'll tell you, when Trump was in Ohio this past weekend campaigning for Bernie Moreno, he started out his speech with an alternate national anthem, and then said he was going to pardon all of the January 6th people.
Yeah.
What'd you make of that?
Oh, he's crazy.
I mean, what?
He's crazy.
But the crowd cheers.
Well, yeah, they're crazy too.
It's so strange to watch that, though.
I wish they'd stop and think what they're doing.
That whole thing this past weekend when he was here, because I was talking to somebody today, and at the Super Bowl, when they wanted to play the African American national anthem, there was all this blowback, and I don't think they did play it along with the...
Didn't they?
No. Mm-hmm. And then he plays this anthem. I'm not even sure what that was.
Yeah. And saluted.
Saluted.
Yeah.
And people were... Okay.
Yeah.
He had the hat on again.
Yeah.
The red.
Yeah. And he looks meaner every day. I swear.
Whether you like or dislike Trump, this man has got to be under stress.
Oh, you can tell on his face.
Oh, you have. I mean,
if I'm trying to find $554 million, I'd have stress on my face. I'll tell you.
And the court cases.
Yes.
I mean, it is.
I mean, that girl that's involved is next week or something.
Oh.
Yeah, she's going to be on The View tomorrow. I can't wait to watch that.
and The View, they'll take it to her. Yeah. They'll take it to her.
They'll have a good time with that.
They certainly will. They certainly will. We're coming back with Mary Ellen Withrow and more election results right after this. Hey, Scott Spears back with Mary Ellen Withrow talking about the election. And I'll tell you, well, we talked some about the election, but during the break there was a harrowing tale that if you see Mary Ellen somewhere, you'll have to ask her about, because that was... It just goes to show you, though, Mary Ellen, you got to be safe. Everybody should be on guard for things in the household.
That's true. Well, and sometimes things sneak up on you.
They do. So be alarmed. If you think anything's wrong, call somebody, because you never know what could happen. Let's talk about the local election results here. In Marion County, 21% of the voters turned out, registered voters. 21% of that 21% were Democrats. 78% were Republicans, but Republicans had a lot more to vote for in this primary.
Yeah, they did.
And let's start with the Democrats. Really, the only thing was your old position, the county treasurer's office.
Yeah, that's why I went to vote.
Yep. Yeah. Richardson, no. It was Linda Davis and Karen Spencer. Now, I was with you at the pancake breakfast and also at your reception out at Kingston. I believe Linda Davis had shown up at both of those events.
Yes. She was out and about. I never did see the other girl that's running.
Spencer. From
the auditor's office, yeah.
And she's no more at this point.
No.
Linda won by quite a wide margin.
Yeah.
61.93% to 38.07. But, again, here we are. She does have a Republican challenger in the fall.
Yes.
Gebhardt. How do you see this all working out in this very Republican Marion we have now?
Well, I don't know anything about Gebhardt, but Linda Davis has been at the treasurer's office for 14 years. She knows how to run it, and she's well qualified. I have no idea about her opponent.
Seems like a very nice lady.
Yes.
Times I've met her,
yes.
And she's definitely out there campaigning. So we will see what happens with that. Let's go to our state rep position here. I believe it's the 86th district. Tracy Richardson, who was also at the reception that we had, also at the Turn Up the Heat dance.
Yeah.
Also at the Pancake Day. Yeah. She's at a lot of places.
She's busy, yeah.
She was in the Republican primary against Weslin Davis. And that was a nasty, nasty race. DUIs came up. We talked about that last time. DUIs came up. It was a nasty, nasty race.
I kept getting things on my phone.
Yeah, it was...
messages against her.
Against Richardson?
Yes.
Yeah. There was a lot of money spent.
Yes.
And it ended up Richardson did hold the nomination 60-40 over Weslin Davis. But in a Republican primary, I was thinking about this, only Republicans voted in that primary. For a sitting state rep, that's not a great margin to win by 20%.
Whenever you get in the 60 area, I think you're doing all right.
I just would have thought that Tracy Richardson, with all the support I thought she had with the local Republican parties, and being there a while, I don't think anybody knew this Weslin Davis prior to this, that it would have been amongst her own party.
More, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe not.
Yeah.
But I know there was a lot of money spent, so there's that.
Yeah.
That apparently does work. We did have another Democratic race. I forgot about that. Against Jim Jordan. We talked about Jim Jordan last week. We now know who's going to face Jim Jordan. Tammy Wilson, who ran against him last time, was primaried by a gentleman named Steve Thomas. Steve was on the program last Thursday, and we now can reveal, because Mayor Schertzer was on the program this morning, that Mayor Schertzer was working for the Thomas campaign. Didn't work out. People can listen to that interview. Mayor Schertzer talks about why he feels it didn't work out. But Wilson's going to be the candidate again, 63% to 37% for Thomas. You didn't meet either one of these people this go around, did you?
No, but I've met Tammy. She's contacted me, yeah.
This is tough. Jordan, I believe, has got $9 million. It's a district that is heavily favored for him. Is this really kind of a moot point at this point? Can Tammy Wilson win?
Well, chances are pretty slim. You never know. You said something about something that's going to be on TV about the Ohio State wrestling.
Yes, we can.
That could make a difference here.
Steve Thomas said on the radio program last week that he's heard from HBO there's a documentary about the Ohio State wrestling scandal, and that apparently it focuses in on what Jim Jordan knew and didn't know, and that is slated at this point to be released in September, which would be about a month and a half before the election. So that, That could. But do you think at this point anything
I
could
don't
help?
know. It depends on what they say. So many times they build it up, they're going to say something important about that, and then they say nothing. I've had that happen so many times in the past, and it's, you know.
You know what's interesting about this particular race is that Jim Jordan clearly has high profile. He clearly, people know who he is. The district is clearly favoring him. But yet, the Democrats, I haven't seen a really good candidate run against him for quite some time.
Well, they're afraid to.
Is that the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's just that bad, isn't that?
Oh, it's that bad, yeah.
So how in the world would you beat Jim Jordan, knowing the situation?
Well, Tammy said she was getting a lot of money from New York and California. And if she's got a lot of money, she ought to be able to hire somebody that's really good at going after somebody, and they can really go after people if they've got the money. So she didn't tell me how much money she had, but if that's the case, you should be able to do something.
You would think. We'll see what happens in that. She certainly did well in the primary.
Yeah.
But that might have been lack of people not knowing who Steve Thomas was.
Well, I certainly didn't know who he was.
I didn't know who he was till he came in.
Yeah.
And
I thought his name was Brown.
Thomas. Thomas was his name.
Yeah.
And he was a businessman, and that's pretty much... He was a very soft-spoken man.
Mm-hmm.
If people listen to the interview, he's very measured in what he said. But that's what happened there. Now, locally, there were some interesting things on the Republican ticket. There were 2 commissioner races, and essentially, whoever won these primaries was going to be the next commissioner because no Democrats are running in the fall in these races.
Yeah.
We had incumbent Andy Appenfeller, who I believe is the longest continuing serving politician currently in Marion County politics.
Yes, I think he is because, how many terms has he had?
I know he's in there, early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I think it could be 5.
It might be.
I mean, this could be the 5th, because I think he's been in 4. Yeah.
It would definitely put him over 20 years.
Yeah.
And he did win his primary, which means he's going to continue in that office, 53.94% to 46.06. Tim Mooney was his challenger. Now, the shocker, though, if you're in Marion County, was the other commissioner seat. You had incumbent Kerr Murray, who'd been there since 2016, took office in January of 17, 8 years. I believe that's, what is that in the commissioners? 2 terms? Mm-hmm. Yep, 2 terms.
4 years. Yeah.
4 years, 2 terms. Mm-hmm. Kerr Murray runs for re-election. Jason Schaber, current city councilman, runs. And Kevin Davidson, former deputy sheriff, runs. And Kerr Murray, the incumbent commissioner, finishes dead last in this race.
Really?
Kevin Davidson won, 39.51%. Second place was Jason Schaber, 30.84%. Kerr Murray, 29.66%.
I wonder if he campaigned. Did you see his signs?
I did not. And I do know Schaber spent a decent amount of money. He had the billboard on Mount Vernon Avenue.
Oh, did he?
He did, right there across from the old St. Mary High School.
Yeah.
Davidson's, I saw a lot of Davidson signs out.
I did too.
So it worked, I guess, for those two. Schaber obviously didn't win, but he still finished better than Kerr Murray did. You know, Kerr's age was brought up here. It's a horrible thing that we're talking about age again, but Kerr's 82. And was running again. Mm-hmm. Do you think that played against him in his... Because this is his own party. This isn't...
I don't know. I have no idea what went on here.
Well, when an incumbent who's been there... I mean, he won re-election 4 years ago. He won election 8 years ago. Now, that was in that Trump landslide year. He beat sitting Commissioner Dan Russell, the last Democrat, I believe, on county commissioners. Mm-hmm. But 4 years ago, he won re-election. But in his own primary, finishes dead last.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's strange.
I'd have to investigate all this stuff. You know, I know nothing about it, really. Yeah.
Mayor Schertzer was on this morning, and what he said about this was, he said he believes that in the local party, the local Republican Party, that there is a schism in their party. And I would have to say that's true because I know Jason Schaber does not get along with them.
Oh.
He said so. I mean, he doesn't go to the meetings anymore. And during that whole committee assignment issue, he said the local Republican Party cares more about politics than what's right.
Yeah.
And we've also learned, speaking of all this, that our city auditor, Miranda McGinnis, I interviewed Ray Grogan last Thursday morning, the county prosecutor. She is under investigation by the prosecutor's office. He couldn't tell me any more than that, but that we will know in the next 30 days what the results are of that investigation.
It sure takes a while, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It does. But I'll tell you, that's, to me, because I had not heard that until he came on.
No, I didn't know that.
And, you know, when it goes to the prosecutor,
Yeah.
this is not, are you doing your job anymore?
Right.
This is criminal activity.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Well, we thought all along things were not right.
Well, she did stand up in a meeting. I believe Matt was at that meeting. That was some meeting. And I think, you know, I hate to say this because I don't really know why. She was accused in the meeting of misappropriating funds. And I think she said yes. And I think that's what happened, as I remember it. You'd have to go back and watch the tape. But I think that's where this all started.
And then nothing happened, huh?
I guess it ended up at the prosecutor's office is where that...
Oh, that took it there.
That's where
Okay.
that's what finally took it to the prosecutor's
Yeah.
office. You know, this auditor's office, if you would try to explain this last 6 years...
I wouldn't want any part of that office, I'll tell you.
I mean, what could somebody do now coming in? How would you fix this?
Well, it'd have to be somebody that knew what to do. And that's what the problem is. They put her in there and she didn't know what to do after somebody was in there that didn't know what to do, that beat somebody that did know what to do. Kelly Clarkson or whatever her name. No,
Kelly Carr.
Carr.
Yeah.
I always get her mixed up with the one on TV.
That's right.
Yeah.
That'd be something if she was the auditor. That'd be interesting.
Yes, well, she can sing, I'll tell
She
you.
can sing.
She's got a beautiful voice.
You know, that the auditor situation will play out, I guess, in the prosecutor's office, but I don't know. Next person in that office, if there is a next person, I don't know. That just has to be so difficult at this point. I don't even know how you deal with it.
Well, you get somebody that knows what they're doing.
What are the odds we would have two in a row that really did not have a grasp
Yeah.
on what's going on there?
Well, yeah, we sure have.
It's odd.
And we've had votes to no confidence and all that stuff they go through, which is ridiculous.
Apparently just procedural.
Yeah, well,
I guess it's just on the books that they had no confidence in.
all the time we're losing money.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Back to Trump for a second. When he was in Ohio this past weekend, he made an interesting comment that I think it was the headliner of this past weekend's news, that if he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath.
I'm afraid there will be too.
Well, when he said that, now, because he has an idea of what he meant, and other people have an idea of what he meant. How did you take that comment that there's going to be a bloodbath?
Well, it's going to be like January 6th, only worse.
Do you think that, so you think there is a possibility of this
Oh,
happening?
yes. When he says something, it happens. All the stuff that he projects, it's going to be. So just look out. The people that's against him are going to go to prison. I'll probably go to prison.
Well, what is that all about?
Well, he said he's going to convict the people that have been against him. He said he's going after Cheney.
Oh,
Yeah,
Liz Cheney.
he's going to put her in jail, and he's going
You
to.
can't do that, can you?
Well, evidently he can if he becomes a dictator.
Well, there is that.
If he gets rid of the Justice Department, and that's what he may do, he's going to have a free reign if he goes in because he's got so many people that he's got with him.
You know, I was thinking the other day. Now, let's say Trump gets elected. I mean, there is a possibility. Now, let's say he wants to become a dictator. Now, I would think that even if you had a Republican House and Senate, that they are not going to go along with that.
They've been going along with him ever since.
But wouldn't that be the end of them if they supported a dictator?
Well, if he's the dictator, they're going to be in a prime situation. You know, it's the other people that's going to have a problem.
Well, now what if the Democrats hold the Senate and are able to win back the House? Then he would have a more difficult time, I would think.
He'd have a terrible time.
Yeah. Because the way it's set up, the executive
Yeah.
branch of government is not supposed to be the most powerful branch.
But the guy has a way of figuring this stuff out. See how he's had all of his court situations extended? I mean, he figures out how to get everything put off, and he says what he's going to do, and don't not believe it because he'll do it.
Do you think that's one of the problems that the Democrats have had, particularly with Donald Trump, is that he says he's going to do something and people kind of put it off as a joke?
Yeah, and it's not.
Yeah.
Because he follows through with his stuff.
But do you think he baits people in a way? Like, I think, this always keeps coming up in my mind. Now, when he was inaugurated, that afternoon he sent the pictures out and said he had more people there than Obama.
Yeah, and he didn't.
He didn't.
No.
Now, he knows.
Of course he knows.
He knows that he didn't. But he knows if he sends that out, people will talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he does that stuff on purpose?
Sure.
So why does everybody take the bait every time?
I don't know. They just don't figure it out, I think.
I think a lot of that is because this man, before he became president, he used to do stuff like that. He'd call up, I mean, this is on record, he'd call up newspapers and pretend
Yeah.
to be different people.
Yeah, right.
And just to drop a story about himself in there. I think he does that a lot just to get people's attention. Like this bloodbath thing. Now, I don't think most people would have said that, but I think he knows saying that everybody's going to jump on that.
But what do you think January 6th was?
That's a good question.
It was a bloodbath.
It was bad. People were killed.
Yeah, and he was going to kill his vice president.
Well, now there's a whole nother topic this week because
Right.
Mike Pence came out after saying
Right.
that he would support the Republican nominee. Well, he's had a change of heart. On the CBS Sunday Morning Show, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning Show this past Sunday,
Yeah.
Mike Pence said he will not support his former boss,
Yeah.
Donald Trump. And that, not only going against the Republican nominee, but this is his former boss. Now, he said it in a weird way, though, because he said, I will not support him, but he said, I won't vote for Biden. Now, I couldn't tell, will he not vote for Trump, or will he not support him, or is he just not voting? I couldn't understand.
Well, you don't know, do you?
You don't know.
No, you don't.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So, but what did you make of this, Pence going back on this?
Oh, I was glad to hear it.
A lot of people this week who have not liked Mike Pence actually said, I respect the man
Yeah.
for doing this. He
Yeah.
didn't have to do that.
My God, he should have said that 6 months ago or 2 years ago. Yeah.
I guess when the nooses come out, that'll change your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well,
it's a
I
horrible.
mean, that thing of him ready to hang him was there, and everybody saw it. That's been 4 years ago almost.
You know, that this happened in the United States of America sometimes. I think, I mean, you don't want to laugh, but I mean, it is, I don't even know, I never thought I'd dream that I'd see
No.
a vice president hung in effigy
Yeah.
in front of the Capitol.
Right.
And now, I don't know.
And they darn near got him. I mean, you know, they were moving him around down there. He wouldn't leave the Capitol.
But, you know, I was talking to somebody about this last week, and I think it was on the air, so this is no problem to say. Okay, now, what did those January 6th people think? I mean, it's awful that people were killed, of course, terrible, that's awful. But, I mean, okay, you can break the windows, you can break in, you could have even, God forbid, kill a senator or a House member. But what would that have done to overthrow the government? Because their idea was to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
So what would it have done? I don't understand how that would have done that.
Just been a terrible mess.
Just a mess.
And they made a terrible mess. They, you know, that beautiful building, and they were tearing it up like crazy and doing all sorts of stuff.
And people have seemingly forgot this, or they
Yeah.
don't care. I don't
Yeah.
know anymore.
I don't know either.
So where is Pence's place now in the history books? Is he
Well, you
redeemed
know,
a little bit?
He was not popular in Illinois or Indiana. Indiana, and he was about to lose whatever he was running for when they picked him as vice president, wasn't he?
I believe so.
Yeah, and he's gone back to Indiana, and I don't know what he's going to do. Probably nothing.
You know, a lot of people, I believe, I have this right, I believe the reason he said he would not support Donald Trump, he didn't bring up the hanging thing, although I would imagine that would weigh on your mind.
I would think.
But he said it's which this is weird in a way, he said it's his evangelical belief, and I think he kind of signaled abortion, that he is pro-life,
Yeah.
and that he doesn't believe Trump is pro-life anymore, or is veering from it.
Trump doesn't know what he is. He's this and he's that. And who knows what he is?
Well, that's interesting because before he became president, I mean, there are videos of him saying he's pro-life in interviews.
Right.
Then he became pro-choice.
Pro-choice,
And then he became pro-life when he became president,
Right.
and he got the Supreme Court in place to do that.
Right.
But you know what? I have to give it somewhat to Pence because people like Mitch McConnell are still supporting him.
He's crazy. Mitch McConnell ought to know better. He supported Trump until just recently, and he still supports him. Said he's going to vote for him.
Yeah.
What's the matter with him?
And he attacked his wife.
Well, yes.
And Ted Cruz.
Oh, and his wife.
His wife and his father.
Yeah.
And Rubio.
Yeah. Oh, he's been terrible.
So Pence, at least, is somebody who stood up and said, well, I'm off this. And Nikki Haley has said that too now, hasn't she?
Uh-huh. You mean what?
That she is not going to support Trump.
I guess. She's said everything. I don't know.
She's one of those, too, who say a lot.
I think the last thing she said was she wasn't going to support him. I don't know that she's going to vote for Biden, though. I mean, if they don't vote at all, or are they going to vote for a third party? Who are they going to vote for?
Well, then you got RFK.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, because this guy, I heard he's polling 10% when they poll.
You're kidding.
10%. I think it's the Kennedy name.
Yeah, it could be.
And that could be a big, big distraction to somebody.
Well, Marianne Williamson's got 3%.
3%. But Kennedy is interesting because they are having him on more shows, I've noticed. They're talking about him more. Apparently he's found some loophole that lets him in on the ballot in 50 states. So he's going, all this, on the 26th, he's going to announce who his vice president is, and...
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
It's interesting.
His family's upset.
I don't think he's invited to Thanksgiving anymore.
No.
I think the whole family has kind of abandoned him.
They took a picture without him.
They did. They did.
Right.
Well, and I don't know how this became a thing. I don't even know why it's a thing.
I don't either. I mean, what's his problem that his family's all against him, and he's got some strange belief that he's running?
I don't know. It all started with that I know he was an anti-vaccination person, and then I also know that he didn't believe that Sirhan killed his father. I heard that.
Okay.
And apparently that was enough to run for president. Can anybody run anymore? Can you just...
I could run, yes.
I mean...
Anybody can run.
Anybody can run.
You can go nowhere.
I mean, you can... But you know, the sad thing where we have gotten is if you say things that people think are a little nutty, people will follow you.
A certain number of nutty people will follow you.
Yeah. But... You know, what do you have to do these days to win a race?
You have to work really hard and say the right things.
Do you have to live in the right area, depending on what political party you are?
It makes a difference.
Certainly does, as of late.
It makes a difference, yeah.
It's very interesting to me that in Marion, what changes in 45 minutes if you go to Columbus? Because there are people who would never win an election in Marion, who could easily win
That's right.
in Columbus.
Yeah.
It's just the way the voting public is made up.
Yeah.
What about big cities make you more democratic? I've never understood that.
I don't know either, but they say Cincinnati has turned Democratic.
Yeah, it used to be.
I'm very happy to hear that.
Well, and look at Georgia.
What have they done?
I think didn't they go for Biden last time?
Did they?
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they did.
I
But
who would've
I mean,
thought-
about they couldn't elect Stacy. I mean,
No.
I thought she would be a wonderful person to be in the governors. They had a bad governor elected. Did you see that?
Yeah, they've had some spells
I mean,
down there.
He's really a bad person. Yeah.
Well, and then you've got Arizona, which this is John McCain, Barry Goldwater country.
Yeah,
and
what they
went,
do.
well, Republican.
Yeah.
So Arizona was
Yeah.
always very Republican, and
Yeah.
now
Mhm.
Biden won Arizona last time.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So those to me are the big stumbling blocks for Trump. Now you can win the popular vote. We've seen that happen. So Trump could be doing well in the popular vote. I think that's what they're measuring right now. I haven't seen an electoral map of the country yet, but it's very difficult for Republicans right now running for president to get the 270 because they cannot lose Florida, they cannot lose Pennsylvania, they cannot lose Michigan or Wisconsin, and now Arizona and Georgia have turned into problems for them. They almost have to run the table on all these states. Democrats don't anymore because California holds so much weight, New York holds so much weight, and they do well all up the East Coast.
Did you look at all the Biden votes for all the states that was in the vote yesterday?
I did.
Yeah.
That's
Were
interesting.
you happy with most of it?
It seemed to me that even though it was inconsequential because he was already chosen, that people were turning out.
Yeah.
But I wonder, I guess it was a moderate turnout, but is that because there are primaries in those states, or are they turning out to vote for him?
Yeah, every state's got their own laws on that, so yeah, it's different situations.
But like I say, one thing that shocked me was looking at Ohio and knowing how well we've supported Trump in the past, that statewide and in Marion County, Nikki Haley, who they know is out, still got more than 10% of the vote.
I thought that was good. Yeah.
And her appeal is, I guess, the people who don't like Trump. So I guess there's about 10%, even in very Democratic or Republican states where there is. Do you think there's starting to be a change where people are not supporting Trump who are Republican?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
You think DeWine's going to endorse him?
I don't think so. No.
They had a falling out.
Yeah, I don't think he would.
It's fascinating because
Yeah.
it's
Why would he? Because he's got no reason to.
unless he wants to run again,
Yeah, that could happen.
which could happen. I don't know. I look at people like DeWine, and I look at people like who else is here in Ohio? People of that. Well, like obviously the Secretary of State, LaRose, and I look at people like that, and I wonder, do they have to be supportive of Trump? Because their next elections will be after he's gone.
Yeah.
But if he wins,
He'll still be here.
he'll still be here.
That would make a difference. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, this hour flew right by, but we are going to bring Matt in for a minute here because I know he wanted to ask you some questions.
Oh, does he?
He does.
Okay.
He's been very involved with this political thing, and we'll do that right after this. But for this episode of Scott Spears Now with Mary Ellen Withrow, Election Roundup, we're heading for the dugout.